good, you guys? You know who it is, man. This your boy, Mr. Relentless Lex, and I'm back like I never left this mother. Yes, Cersei. Hello, somebody. All right, so, man, we got... Today's video is going to be a nice one. This is fire right here, bro. Because this is about Cameron not backing down from the bully, Suge Knight from LA. It's been alleged that Suge had ran into Cameron at a nightclub in LA one night and said that Cameron had owed him some money from Ambitions of a Rider beat that Tupac used on his album, All Eyes on Me. And Cameron was like, bro, first of all, I got the beat straight from Daz, which is another member up on the Suge Knight's record label, I believe, Death Row Records. But basically, Cameron said, I'm not paying you nothing. Get it how you live, and we're going to do what we do outside this club tonight. I ain't paying you S-H-I-T. Let's go, man. Let's jump straight into the video, though.
Yes, Cam definitely held his ground when the incident happened between him and Suge.
Hey, yo, bro, I ain't giving you no bread. What's poppin'? He like, well, I tell you now, I up on give me your money. So now my man's starting to flinch. Yeah, so I'm like, yo, I is up too. What we doing? What's poppin'?
Suge built his name off fear. The type of man who could walk into a room and have platinum-selling rappers shaking in their boots. He bullied executives, punked artists, and built a reputation off fear that stretched across the industry.
He's a beast. He was a bully.
Good night. How you doing? Don't kill me. All right.
I'm talking about slap men hard. I'm talking about an open fist across their face.
But Harlem don't scare easy. And when Suge crossed paths with Cameron, he found out the hard way that intimidation only works on the weak.
Bro, that scene right here. What scene was this? Paid in Full.
Across their face.
But Harlem don't scare easy. And when Suge crossed paths with Cameron, he found out the hard way that...
So this scene right here was a scene from the movie Paid in Full. Cameron was an actor in the movie. And from the stories I've heard, they said that when Cameron was playing in the movie, on this particular scene, even though it was acting, bro, they said that Cameron actually punched the guy in the face, like, in real time. The guy wasn't even expecting Cameron to do that. But he really hit the guy and hit him and drug him out the car. They were like, yo, Cam, you're ODing, my boy. You're doing too much. Cam was like, nah, keep the cameras going.
Intimidation only works on the weak.
I just thought that he probably thought we'd be intimidated.
Let's dive in. Cameron versus Suge Knight. It's 2002 and Cameron is sitting on top of the world. He had just dropped his third album, Come Home With Me, which was his first project under Rockefeller after leaving Epic. This wasn't just another album, it was his bounce back moment, the project that put him in superstar territory. The album was hot, moving units, going platinum, and cementing Cam as one of the faces of the new rock era. At the same time, Suge was still walking around with that aura of being one of the most feared men in the music business. His name carried weight, no doubt, but truth be told, his actual grip on the industry was starting to slip. By then, his influence wasn't what it once was, but the reputation still followed him everywhere. Now, the drama all started over one specific track on Cam's album, Live My Life, Leave Me Alone. The beat Cam used was built off Tupac's legendary 1996 record, Ambitions as a Rider, the opening track from All Eyes on Me. Anybody who knows Pac's catalog knows that's one of his most iconic joints, so the second...
Hey, yo, shout out to Arizona energy drinks, bro. Fire. You got to try it.
Cam used it, it was bound to get noticed, and apparently Suge Knight wasn't feeling it one bit. According to Cam, the whole thing went down outside a club in LA, somewhere around 2 a.m. He and his boy Tito had just stepped out when they linked up with another friend, Jacob. Jacob tells Cam that Suge Knight wants a word. Now, most dudes at the time would have been on edge hearing that Suge Knight wanted to talk, but Cam stayed cool and basically told Jacob, all right, tell him to come over here.
Me and my man Tito, we was coming out the club, and my other man, Jacob York, was there, and he was like, yo, Sugar's over there, he want to speak to you.
So, Suge pulls up, gives a quick hello, and immediately jumps into the issue. He tells Cam that he owes him money for using that beat, but Cam wasn't hearing it. His defense was simple. He got the beat directly from Daz Dillinger, the guy who produced Ambitions as a Rider. Daz had even come to the studio himself and replayed the beat for him. In Cam's eyes, that was as official as it gets. He went to the source. But Suge wasn't having it. He basically shut Cam's explanation down, saying Daz had no say in it and that the beat was his property.
So he comes over, he's like, yo, what's up? I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? How you doing? He like, I'm good, but you owe me some money. You used that Tupac beat on your album. That's my beat. And I'm like, well, Daz came to the studio and played it over.
And then Suge leaned into his reputation. He reminded Cam that he had F dudes up before over money and wasn't shy about doing it again. In other words, he was sending a warning. At this point, Cam's boy Tito is starting to feel like things might take a violent turn. You've got Suge Knight, known for strong-arm tactics, throwing out threats, and it's 2 in the morning outside a club. It could have easily gone left, but Cam stood his ground. Instead of folding, he shot back at Suge, basically saying, if you want to fight, we can fight. And that's when the whole energy shifted. Suge, who was used to people backing down the second they got aggressive, was now face to face with someone who wasn't intimidated in the slightest. Rather than escalate, Suge backed off. Just like that, he walked away and the situation was over.
And you owe me
Now,
money.
mind you now, Cameron and his homeboy Tito, they are in LA. In Suge's hometown, home area. And he pressed Cam about the money, and Cam stood his ground, bro. That was major, bro, to Suge Knight. I've heard so many stories about Suge Knight, and for Cameron to do this in LA with just him and one other guy with him, bro. I know he was terrified probably, but he probably said to himself, like, if I don't stand up now, he gonna keep bullying me, bro. So he did the right thing. I feel like he did the right thing. It could have ended bad, but hell.
Like, hey, yo, bro, I ain't giving you no bread. What's poppin'? He like, well, I tell you now, I up on giving you money. So
Like, what?
Yeah, so I'm like, yo, I is up too. What we doing? What's poppin'?
Looking back, Cam said it wasn't even about business for him. If Suge had a legit issue with the rights, he could have handled it with a phone call through the proper channels. Instead, he tried to turn it into a street situation. And Cam, being who he is, responded with street principles. If you threaten me, I'll meet you with the same energy. Fans who have heard the story since have pointed out how much it shows Suge's style at the time. He was like a classic bully. His intimidation tactics only worked if the other person believed in his power. But when somebody stood up to him and showed they weren't afraid, his whole game plan fell apart. Cameron was built different. Now, Cameron standing up to Suge Knight might sound wild to some if they don't know his background. To some, it's like, how did Cam have the nerve to press Suge like that? But for people who really know his story and know what Harlem breeds, you get it. Cam wasn't some pushover, and he definitely wasn't the type of guy you could just punk. This is a Harlem native we're talking about, and coming up out of Harlem in the 80s and 90s was survival training in itself. What a lot of people forget is that rap wasn't even Cam's first plan. Before the chains, pink minks, and platinum albums, Cam was chasing something totally different: basketball. That was his dream. He went to Manhattan Center for Science and Mathematics in East Harlem, and he wasn't just hooping for fun. He was a real talent, and his childhood friend, Mace, the same Mace who'd later blow up with Bad Boy, was right there with him on the squad. Together, they made some serious noise, taking their team all the way to second place in the New York City High School basketball finals. Cam was nice. He was considered one of the top 25 players in the whole country for the class of 1990.
M. Bethel? M-A$E. Bro, Mace look crazy, bro. I ain't even knew Mace played basketball. I know Cameron played ball, but I didn't know Mace played ball, bro. That's crazy. I wish I could go back and find some footage of them guys playing. Not saying they couldn't hoop, but I know Cam could hoop, but not Mace. I don't know about Mace.
That's the same class that had future NBA stars in it. Schools were calling. He had heavy hitters: North Carolina, Syracuse, Duke, Florida, USC, Georgetown, Miami, all showing interest. That's basically a who's who of college basketball royalty. If things had gone differently, we might have been talking about Cameron, the NBA point guard, instead of Cameron, the rap legend. But life threw him a curveball. It wasn't his skills that held him back, it was his academics. His grades just weren't there, and because of that, those big Division I scholarships went out the window. With the major schools off the table, Cam ended up at Navarro Junior College down in Texas. It should have been a stepping stone, a way to keep hooping until he could make that leap to a bigger program. But in reality, it didn't work out like that. He was dealing with a nagging hamstring injury, and beyond that, he just wasn't feeling the environment down there. The dream started to fade, and soon enough, his basketball career was pretty much done.
And like basically we used to play ball. Ball was like a first priority. But I went away to school Mace got put on over at Bad Boy. I got into some problems out in school. I used to go to a junior college in Texas.
So Cam came back home to Harlem, and when he got there, reality hit him square in the face. The NBA wasn't happening, and now he had to figure out a new way to survive. And in Harlem, survival often meant the streets. Cam himself had admitted he started hustling, moving weight across state lines, even referencing it in his music later on. In his track It's Killa, he talks about moving in Maryland. And this was Harlem in the 90s when things were heavy. Street legends like Baby M and Pop Lottie were locked in violent beefs, shootouts were happening, and the danger wasn't just some rumor, it was on every corner. On top of that, Cam got hit with something even deeper than the street chaos, personal tragedy. In March of '97, his cousin and rap partner Derek Bloodshed Armstead died in a car accident. Bloodshed wasn't just family, he was Cam's brother in music. Together, they'd been part of the group Children of the Corn alongside Big L, Mace, and Herb McGruff. That group had all the potential in the world, but Bloodshed's passing shut it down instantly. For Cam, losing him was devastating, but at the same time, it lit a fire in him. With basketball gone and Bloodshed gone, music became the thing he threw himself into. That's when Cam really started taking his solo rap career seriously.
He passed away last year, and we just used to rap on the street.
Cam's real breakthrough didn't come from some industry A&R or a random demo getting passed around. It came from somebody who knew him since way back, Mace. At the time, Mace was already making major noise in the rap game, fresh off his Bad Boy run. He was in the industry, moving around with the biggest names, and he decided to put Cam on. One day, he brought Cam face to face with none other than the notorious B.I.G. Now, this was the type of meeting that could change one's life in a single moment, and for Cam, it did. As he later told it, he spit some bars for Biggie, and Big was instantly sold. Big looked at him and said, "Yo, you nice, you know what I'm saying? I want to put you on." Biggie wasn't just giving lip service either. He put action behind those words. He took Cam to Lance Rivera, the CEO of Entertainment, which was an Epic Records imprint at the time, and Big's cosign held so much weight that Rivera didn't even need to hear Cam rap. Just Biggie's word was enough. Off that recommendation alone, Cameron got signed. That was the official start of Cam's professional career, and from there, his rise was set in motion.
Took me over to Notorious B.I.G. house, and I rapped for Biggie. Biggie was like, "Yo, you nice, you know what I'm saying? I want to put you on, you know what I'm saying?" So he called this partner, Rivera, up, like, "I got this kid sitting in my house, I want to sign him." And Un was like, "Yo, I'll sign him," you know what I'm saying? He didn't even hear me rhyme, he just respected Big's opinion that much.
But while that moment with Biggie was the door opening,
Bro, if you got a co-sign from Biggie, bro, I wouldn't have to hear you rhyme neither, my boy. Like, for real, I'm gonna be like, yo, I don't care who you is, how you look, girl, boy, grandmother, grandpapa, no matter, bro. Like, if Big give you a cosign, you special. You special. You in there.
When the really stamped Cam as a street legend came years later, in 2005. It was October 23rd, Howard University's homecoming weekend in Washington, D.C. In the early hours of the morning, Cam was out doing what only Cam could do, flossing without apology. He pulled up at a red light in a royal blue Lamborghini Gallardo and was decked out with nearly $200,000 worth of ice around his neck and wrists. The party might have been over, but Cam's night was still in motion. That's when it happened. A burgundy Ford Expedition crept up next to him, and inside were a couple of dudes who thought they were about to get rich quick. They figured they'd hit Cam for the jackpot, the Lambo, the jewelry, everything. It was supposed to be a smooth lick, but they clearly didn't know who they were trying to rob. Cam wasn't built to fold. Instead of quietly handing over his car keys and hoping they'd let him walk away, he spazzed. He started cursing them out right there at the light, and then, instead of freezing up, he mashed the gas, and that's when the shots rang out. Gunfire lit up the street. The bullets ripped through both of his arms as he sped away. Blood pouring out, nerves screaming, pain shooting through him, but somehow Cam held the wheel steady. He kept control of the Lambo, peeled off, and managed to drive himself straight to Howard University Hospital.
What happened was they told me to give up the car, and I looked at him like he was stupid, pulled off, and then he started shooting.
News spread instantly. Cameron shot in D.C. The media swarmed, and the industry started buzzing with rumors. When he finally walked out of the hospital, reporters were waiting on the steps with cameras rolling. That's when Cam delivered one of the coldest post-shooting quotes in rap history. He looked into the cameras and said, "I got shot 3 times and my album comes out November 22nd. It was a sloppy job on their part. They didn't get anything. I still got my car and my jewelry." And if that wasn't enough, later that same night he held a press conference and walked everybody through the shooting play by play. And keep in mind, all of this went down during one of the ugliest stretches of his career. He just split with Rockefeller, his fallout with Jay-Z was at its peak, and the beef in the industry was at an all.
He just had fell off with Rockefeller, bro. You think Jay maybe had something to do with that? His album was about to come out on the 22nd of November. I know he had a Lamborghini and a lot of ice. But you never know. You just never know when it comes down to this industry. You just don't. You can't put nothing past nobody.
Time high. People were already questioning where he stood, and then this incident added gasoline to the fire. Cam didn't let it slide either. He turned the whole experience into art. On his 5th album, Kill a Season, he dropped the track You Gotta Love It, featuring Max B. That record was Cam with no filter, just raw frustration, jokes, and shots aimed directly at Jay-Z. Over a beat by Info, he opened the track by tearing into Jay. First off, you a B, dude. Only reason I'm doing this, I'ma just name 5 reasons real quick. Then he starts running down his list, accusing Jay-Z of stealing Rockefeller from Dame, snatching Kanye from Dame, taking Rockaware, even throwing in a wild shot about Jay flashing the diamond sign before the bullets flew. The shooting itself left him with some serious nerve damage, and it took nearly a full year for him to really recover. But instead of slowing him down, the whole ordeal only fed into his legend. It showed people that Cam wasn't just slick talk on records, he really lived what he rapped about. So if Cam could handle situations like that, then standing up to Suge Knight was probably nothing to him. But at the same time, fans are just glad it didn't get uglier. Because with Suge, anything could have gone left real quick. This is the same dude who had a long history of stirring up straight chaos for rappers. Vanilla Ice. Take Vanilla Ice, for example, probably one of the most infamous names attached to a Suge Knight intimidation story.
Oh yeah, he did Vanilla Ice wrong,
dangling
bro.
him off a hotel balcony,
Hey.
threatening to drop him. It all started with a dispute over songwriting credits, specifically involving Mario Chocolate Johnson, a singer and songwriter who had worked closely with Vanilla Ice. Back when Vanilla Ice's Hooked album dropped, Johnson had contributed heavily, penning a lot of the songs. He did get credited on the record, but that's where the fairness ended. Johnson never got paid a dime, and when he tried to follow up, Vanilla Ice's camp started dodging his calls. In the 2015 book, Welcome to Death Row, The Uncensored History of the Rise and Fall of Death Row Records, Johnson talks about when he first realized how massive this whole thing could be. I remember being at Vanilla Ice's attorney's office, he said. I found out his album had 2 million pre-orders before it was even released, so I knew he had a big record. Suge didn't know how to handle a big potential lawsuit like that, a record of 6-7 million at the low end. At first, Vanilla Ice's lawyer suggested they could just throw Johnson a small settlement to make the problem go away, but that didn't sit right with Suge. The man wasn't exactly known for letting things slide quietly, and in his mind, this was a much bigger payday than a small amount. Suge's frustration turned into determination. He wanted to handle this his way, and that way started with talking to Vanilla Ice directly. Johnson explained how it all went down. We knew where Vanilla Ice was staying because I was supposed to be hearing some tracks he was doing. He wanted me to come by himself, but Suge said I'm going with you, and that's exactly what happened. Vanilla Ice himself tells his version in the same book. According to him, he went back to his hotel room and found Suge already in there, with several guys alongside him. Suge made it clear he wanted points or royalty shares off Ice Ice Baby. Then Suge invited him out onto the balcony, and by invited, he walked him out there, started talking to him real calm, and had him look over the edge, way down at the ground below. I said I needed to wear a diaper that day, and even said I was an investor in Death Row Records with no return on my money. Now here's where the myth and the reality split. Vanilla Ice insists Suge didn't actually dangle him off the balcony. That story's been blown out of proportion, he said. We've got no bad feelings toward each other. And maybe that's true.
The story that has been told is that I was hung over a balcony, which has never happened. He didn't hang me over the balcony. He took me to the balcony to talk to me. I got it. You don't have to hang me over. I didn't want to question that or test that water, so to speak.
But even if Suge didn't literally hold him over the edge, the situation still oozes intimidation because why take someone out onto a high balcony and make them stare over the edge if you're not trying to send a message? Maybe Suge didn't need to physically hold Ice over it. The visual, the height, and the tension in that moment probably did all the work for him. Eminem and 50 Cent. The whole drama stemmed from Suge's long-standing beef with Dr. Dre. When Dre walked away from Death Row and later signed Eminem, and by extension brought in 50 Cent, Suge saw them as part of Dre's camp. And if you were with Dre, you were against Suge. So naturally, when M and 50 blew up, they inherited that tension. Suge wasn't about to just watch them win without trying to disrupt things. He pulled stunts to intimidate them on multiple occasions. One of the most famous examples was during the filming of 50's In a Club music video. Everything was going smoothly until someone on set suddenly yelled, "Suge Knight is here." That single sentence flipped the entire atmosphere. Suge didn't just pull up solo, he rolled in with about 30 guys, reportedly members of a Mexican gang.
So Suge came, he had some Mexican. Now we from New York. You ain't never seen a with a tattoo on his forehead. 118th Street crew. I'm like, what the tattoo on his face, homie?
Strong ties to a major Mexican gang sat down and shared a wild story about how Suge actually used him and his crew to put pressure on Wayne. According to Capone at the time, he genuinely respected Suge. In his eyes, Suge wasn't just some industry guy, he was a real deal street figure who'd built a reputation as a gangster and was now putting serious money into music, especially gangster rap. So when Suge reached out, Capone didn't hesitate. He was down to link up.
I kind of looked up to Suge Knight in a way when I first heard about Suge Knight and looked at his story. I'm thinking Suge Knight's just a gangster. He's just a gangster that wanted to put his money into the music game, and he's doing good and he's helping out the gangster rap.
One day, a mutual friend calls Capone and tells him Suge wants to meet face to face. Capone rolls up with his guys, ready to chop it up. They meet Suge, and right from the jump, Suge is in full LA street mode, talking big, hyping them up, telling them how he runs the city, how they run the city, and how every artist that lands in Los Angeles needs to check in first. Capone and his crew were feeling it, and they were ready to move whenever he gave the word.
Telling us some real street essays are deep in LA. They're running the jail. They are the streets. He's like, check us out. We run LA. We need to let everybody know that they come to LA, they go with us. I'm Suge Knight, you're Capone, we could take over, blah, blah, blah. So I'm with it. I'm like, that sounds like a plan. Like.
Then in the middle of this meeting, Suge gets a phone call. On the other end, someone tips him off. Lil Wayne is in LA, recording at a studio. That's when Suge's whole energy shifts. He tells Capone and his guys they should slide over there and let Wayne know who's really in charge. Translation, Wayne needed to check in, and they were about to make that happen. So they roll out deep, ready to make a statement. When they got to the studio, Suge stays outside while telling Capone and his boys to head in first and pass the message along. They walk up to the entrance and Wayne's security comes out to see what's going on. Capone and his crew tell security straight up, Suge Knight's outside and he wants to talk to Wayne. The guard heads back inside, and a few minutes later, someone comes back out asking if Suge himself can come in.
So Suge Knight gets out of the car, he goes, look, here's my plan. You guys go push up in the studio. You go knock on the door and start saying you want to talk to Lil Wayne and say Suge Knight's outside. We go to the door, start knocking, security comes out like, what's cracking? We need to see Lil Wayne. Suge Knight's outside. What's up, homies? They're looking at us like, what the f? These fools are tripping, you know? We're like, yeah, so we're going there tripping.
Capone's thinking, perfect, we're all going in. We're about to sit down with Wayne, maybe even spark up some music, business, whatever. But that's when Suge throws them a curveball. He turns to Capone and says, nah, y'all wait here. Then he walks in by himself. They're standing there confused. Minutes turn into more minutes. Eventually, Suge walks back out, totally casual, and hits them with, all right, I'll catch y'all tomorrow. Then he dips, just like that.
Nah, that's cold,
Suge says,
bro.
do me a favor, guys, just stay out here, chill. So we're like, all right, cool. He goes in there, talks with Lil Wayne. We're outside waiting, we're looking at security, security's looking at us. Like, you know, we're just like, you know, looks like tension could pop off, we're ready to pop it off if something goes on.
Capone and his boys were left there scratching their heads, wondering what had just gone down, and then it clicked. Suge had basically used them to apply pressure. Having a crew of deep, tatted-up Mexicans at the door sent a certain kind of message, and Suge knew it. Once that message was delivered, he didn't need them anymore. Suge definitely had his run bullying a lot of rappers, but at the end of the day, that tough guy act didn't work on everybody.
Wow, bro. It didn't work on too many people I see. Even though he was a big bully, the big bad wolf got broke down sometimes too. Cameron, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent. Now, nobody don't feel Suge. He's in jail right now. I'm pretty sure people in jail probably still don't feel Suge, you know. But back in the days, from the stories I heard, hell, he's taking over the rap game on the West Coast and trying to migrate to the East Coast and have everybody on Death Row. He wanted to start Death Row East, Death Row South, Death Row North, I guess everything. But it ain't go quite as planned. Shout out to everybody that stood up for themselves, man, and didn't fall victim to Suge shenanigans. You dig? Make sure you guys is commenting, liking, and subscribing to the channel. We're back. We're on the road to 500K. It's time for your boy Lex to put the gas pedal to the metal, bro. The pedal to the metal. Yes, sir.